All right. Good afternoon, everybody. I hope everybody's doing well. Obviously, today's a big day. National Signing Day, or whatever, early National Signing Day, but I feel like it is the day. Been in all sorts of recruiting battles these last really 6 to 9 months, last couple of weeks. All sorts of different visits in June and December, commitments, decommitments, more commitments, really battles throughout the way across the country. That's kind of the landscape we're in right now. As we're continuing to build, today we've really been excited on who we added. I think we've added some really, really good football players. We're going to find ways to get better every single day. We needed to open up spots. We needed to have spots filled. It looks to me that we'll have, at this moment, 84 scholarship players out of 85 after everybody signed today. Still looking to see where that ends up here in the very end, but right now that's what it looks like. Excited about our players that are returning. Really excited about the fact that Mike Wiley and Jordan Morgan, Jacob Cowling, Jaden DeLora, all chose to return, although they have opportunities to go into the NFL. Excited about guys like T-Mac and Kean Burnett and Tanner McLaughlin, Speedy Luke, Jonah Coleman, all of those players that have just been in last year's class. Really excited about the defensive group that we had, all the young freshmen that we played, and now all the guys that have added. And then also, of course, continuing to look at the depth at quarterback with Noah and now this year's class. So I think we're in a spot right now that we are, our build is progressing and we are evolving. And the evolution of our program from 1 win to 5 wins was hard, but I believe from 5 wins to 9 wins will even be harder. Whether that be whatever that other 4-game jump will be. So we're going to have to really attack January and attack the spring, attack the training camp, really make our coaches be the very best they can be, our players be the very best they can be, and continue to utilize the portal, continue to utilize the final signing day. I think there'll probably be a couple more changes here. If I was to guess, in January, and I would expect a couple more people to be arriving on campus. Really looking forward to that. So just a couple notes on these guys. First of all, I would say that when you get the guys returning that are returning, those are the biggest transfer wins you can have, or NFL win, whatever it might be, portal wins. To get those guys back was huge. The second thing is to go get Justin Flowe was enormous for our program. Justin Flowe will be the highest ranked player from high school ever on campus. One of the highest ranked players, period. The fact that he and T-Mac will be playing together. T-Mac did an incredible job of recruiting him for us as well as Jaden did over those few days. And we are excited and thrilled to have Justin Flowe on our campus ready to roll. He is excited to play next to Jacob Manu and Jerry Roberts and all the other guys that have committed to us this year. The next thing I'd say is our quarterback position. I should say this. Before I go there, I'd say we've also brought in 3 or 4 other transfers that have done a great job of bringing a winning culture to the program. Bill Norton from Georgia, Manoa from UCLA. Guys that have been in winning programs and winning cultures are going to make a huge difference for us. That's a huge part of what we're trying to get done. So to bring a guy in from Georgia, a guy in from Oregon, a guy in from UCLA this past year, they've all won a lot of games, and to have them is critical. A couple highlights of this year's recruiting class on top of that. Looks like we have 9 players ranked in the top 1,000. I expect a few more by February 2023. I think last year we had 14. I think when we start adding them up, we'll probably be closer to 12 or 13 by the end. We have about 25 new commitments, somewhere in that range. I'm expecting a few more by the start of spring football to get our number to 85 on June 1st. We set out to fix our defense. We signed, I believe, 16 of our 25 commits are on the defensive side of the ball. And really, we believe this. The build will never stop. The build will never stop. And the program has improved, but it's not where we want it to be. I don't think it'll ever be where we really want it to be. We want it to be an infinite amount of winning. So to do that, we're going to continue to build off of the guys we have on our roster, to make the players better, to bring in great players every single year, to never turn away talent, and to continue to build off of what we started, which is a pretty good foundation right now. 103 of our 110 players on our roster have been on our team 2 years or less. So we know what we have, we know what we're getting, and we know who's coming in. Before I open it up to questions, I want to say a couple thank yous. First of all, I want to just make sure I follow here my notes, but I want to thank our personnel department. They did an amazing job. Matt Doherty, Josh Amora, Cam Lemons, Kendall Bennett, Brandon Sanders, Cindric Steptoe have done a fantastic job putting together this class. That's 2 years in a row. I would say we'll end up with a top 30 class by the time February 1st comes. To the coaches' wives, I want to publicly thank them. Each weekend in June, we asked my wife, all the other wives, to be at our home, to be at all these recruiting events, to let their husbands sit on the phones, text, travel throughout the month, and making sure that their kids were all taken care of and a part of recruiting. I want to thank them. Our administration, I'd say there's no better administration in the country. Our president is at every recruiting breakfast on Friday mornings. Our university CFO, our provost, our vice president of the university, our vice president of research, our deans of certain departments, our athletic director, our head basketball coach have all helped us in recruiting. And I wanted to thank all of them. And then finally, I want to thank our student athletes. Well, I shouldn't say finally. I want to thank our student athletes who hosted and participated in recruiting. They helped us achieve our goals. And I thank them for all of their work. And finally, our assistant coaches. Our assistant coaches, once again, have done a phenomenal job of acquiring talent, developing talent, and putting together all the pieces that we need. So we're really excited about this class. We'll talk about the members of the class here, and we'll open up to all the questions. But we've got one heck of a class of recruits that we're excited about sharing all their information.
You can kind of address this a little bit with Yogi and Pac-12 people today, but kind of the two-step plan of kind of addressing the offense first and then the defense. Can you just elaborate?
Yeah, I thought that as a staff, we made a decision that the best way to build this team after 2021 season was to find ways to score points. Our attendance went up 10,000 people per game. We were more fun to watch. We needed to get more players to want to be a part of our program. We needed to develop what I thought would be a top offense in the country, top offense in the Pac-12, and that's what we did. To do that, we needed to invest our resources into offensive players, which is our time, the amount of players we could bring in through the portal, and the amount of players we could bring in through recruiting. And so that's what we did. Now we feel as if from that, we're going to take the core group of defensive players we brought in that we have, and then how much can we add? How many players now want to be on a team that has a great offense? Our thought was this: if you are a defensive player, you want to be on a team that scores points. You don't want to be on a team that you have to win games 17-13. So this year, a lot of our focus was on players like, let's call it, Nick Fernandez, Tristan Davis, Dom Lalesio, Julian Savanea, Tay Brown, Kamu, Arian Parrish, Canyon Moses, Gavin Hunter, Genesis Smith, Tyler Manoa, Oren Patu from Cal, pass rusher, who I forgot to mention, Manny Carnley, Justin Flowe, Bill Norton, Keanu Maloto, all of those guys are defensive players that we project to make a big difference.
Justin Flowe obviously was a big time recruit coming out of high school. Had some injury issues at Oregon, derailed a couple seasons for him. What can you tell us about his health, and what are your hopes and expectations for what he'll be able to do here?
Well, I hope, well, number one, he's healthy. I'll say that. He's 100% healthy. Number two, he'll be here in January, ready to roll for the first day of classes, for spring ball, for our everything we could possibly ask for there. Be in our strength and conditioning program, our training room, all of those things. But then on top of it all, I would expect him to be the type of player that we saw when we played them and the type of player that we saw in high school, which is an elite linebacker. You watch him run and hit. He's as physical and as forceful of a player as you'll see on a college field. His energy, his passion that he plays with is incredible. And he's a guy that's a 6'2", 225-pound linebacker that probably will be 235 pounds on opening day and will make an enormous impact in our defense.
Quarterback every year, no matter what your roster says?
Yeah, I believe in that philosophy of always bringing in a quarterback. This one that we got here is a special one. Braden Dorman coming in, 4-star, number one player in Colorado, top quarterback. I would say that the one that we like the most in this area on the West Coast, Mountain Time Zone area. I feel as if he's the type of player that can make a huge impact, and I believe you should always recruit just like you would always draft a quarterback. In the NFL once a year, I think you always have to recruit one every year, especially with the landscape we're in. But Noah Fafita is special. So to have Noah on our roster from 1 year ago, the fact that he's now has his 4 years of eligibility still available to him, I hope that Braden can learn from that process of hopefully redshirting, but coming in to compete just like Noah did, and then have 4 years from there. But I know Braden wants to come in and compete. I know Noah wants to compete and is going to compete. And then I know both of those guys will push Jaden. And that's really what makes a special room.
One other area you guys touched upon in this recruiting class was the offensive line. Brought in a lot of great talent there. Can you talk about the guys there?
Yeah. I'd say in terms of the offensive line, what we've done is we brought in 4 high school players, I believe it is, and then bringing back Jordan. And to us, that was a huge win when Jordan finally made his decision yesterday of returning, and then being able to bring in R.J. Polito, Tylen Gonzalez, Elijah Payne, and Rhino to that group. You're talking about guards, tackles, center, guys that can play all those positions. That adds our depth. We'd like to get to 15 scholarships at the O-line. And I think that got us to, 13, Matt?
I believe so.
13 now, yeah.
I believe so today, yep.
The hope is August 1st. But I think he's planning on doing that being a little bit ahead of schedule. But I would say, most ACLs at this point, doctors are going from 6 to 9 months, and that would put him right at about the 9-month mark.
In this day and age of scouting and video and all that, how does a guy like Tylen Gonzalez kind of stay under the radar? How did you guys find him?
Did you answer that one?
Yeah, Tylen was a product of diligent scouting, as you mentioned, just turning over every stone possible. What really worked to our favor in this instance was geography. Not to disparage this hometown or where he's from, it's just very difficult to get to for anyone. And so Tylen had a lot of other options that he didn't necessarily publicize. He had a lot of interest from within the Pac-12 and also the SEC. I won't name names and air his business, but really impressed with how he handled the entire process. He made his decision, and then he didn't feel the need to, advertise any other offers that came his way as time soldiered on. So, that was a product of of really mining for the skill set we're looking for. And then, of course, when we saw him in person, he certainly had the measurables in the frame that led us to say, sign us up.
Matt, how significant is it to bring in as many offensive and defensive linemen as you guys are? Those seems like those are always the hardest guys to find.
Yeah, I think we said it a year ago in this very press conference that when in doubt, we're going to be a line of scrimmage-centric program. I know I'm speaking for the head coach when I say that. That's just not my original thought. So if we're going to miss, we're going to miss on size. Not that we're okay with missing. That's just kind of the mantra we live by. So Keanu Mailoto is a great example of that. This is a guy who flew under the radar for much of the process, and that had a lot to do with his situation eligibility-wise. Keanu was a qualifier out of high school who was, for whatever reason, I guess he was not, I can't think of the word. Anyway, that situation was rectified. I'm sorry, that situation was rectified in terms of the clerical error. I'm not trying to call anybody out, but mistakes were made in his situation, and that's what kind of kept him flying under the radar. So I don't know if that answers your question, Michael. We're always going to want to err towards big bodies and having them in large quantities.
Polito seems to be the biggest body of them all. Jed, how did that recruitment come together?
Yeah, well, I credit Coach Carroll on that one. Really, what you look at is he was one of the first people we offered. We were his first offer 2 years ago. He came to a camp here, and we were able to get an offer out to him. And then as his recruitment just kind of skyrocketed, he wound up picking up offer after offer after offer, and you would kind of catch him on social media going to one place to another place to another place. Then he made his commitment. But toward the end here, he reached back out and felt like he wanted to be on the West Coast and wanted to stay, let's call a little bit closer to home. And when he reached out to Coach Carroll because they sustained or maintained a really good relationship. And I think he mentioned that in his articles and mentioned that in his interview on the real reason why Arizona got back involved was because of Coach Carroll and his belief in Brennan and his belief in Brennan helping develop him. But you're talking about a guy that was 6'7", 340 pounds on his visit, I believe. And then when we were at his home last Sunday, I think he's at the 6'7", 314-pound mark, trying to get down to be a super heavyweight wrestler, to get to 285 for high school, and then plan to go back up for track, and then back coming here at about 325. So he's able to gain and lose weight, but when you look at his size, when you look at Manoa's size, when you look at, we just mentioned Tylen's size, even the linebackers we signed are now all 6'2", 225 pounds. When you look at Dom Alessio's size, when you look at Tristan Davis's size, we brought a lot of 6'5" plus players in here, Elijah Payne's size, and then 300-plus pound guys, both on the offensive, defensive line to help us win games.
Johnson brings the running back room.
Speed, vision, toughness, another special running back. Brandon Johnson's going to be a really, really good player for us. I love that running back room right now. Mike Wiley returning. Jonah Coleman coming back a year better. Speedy Luke coming back healthy. You've got those guys, and then Stevie Rocker, is sitting in that room, competing to get going again. And then you also now bring in Brandon. I think that's a room that's going to have some special players to it and really make a huge impact in what we're trying to get done. On top of that, we have DJ for one more year. So now you've got DJ Williams, who's now not coming in August or not. We're trying to get ready at the very end, but we actually have DJ ready to roll all of spring, all of summer, all of fall. That running back room should be, once again, really special.
Worked with Hunter at Bulls, but how do you evaluate guys like a Tyler Minogue who maybe didn't produce as much, but you say, okay, we're going to bring this guy in, and obviously you're confident he'll produce?
Yeah, some of those guys, you have to have a background with them. You have to have a history with them. With a Manoa, similar to Eccles, Coach Nansen coached them both. So Coach Nansen saw how they played, saw how they practiced, saw what their skill sets were. I felt most comfortable there with a player that, let's say, didn't have as much production, but we had familiarity. Hunter was in that case, and now Manoa's in that case. The rest of the guys that we brought in, we either had a really good familiarity with them or we've seen a lot of film on them. Bill Norton is another one that we just felt like you watch him play and you see what a Georgia defensive lineman looks like, and you see when they get into the game and how immediately disruptive they can be. Somebody like that is going to immediately impact our program here.
How many of the 25 do you expect to be here in January?
Leave about 15 at the moment.
What's your perspective on Tucson as a recruiting turf? 1 million people, 25 high schools, and no FBS prospects this year.
Yeah, I don't understand that per se. I know that there's really good high school coaches in the area. I know that there's been a lot of really good high school players, one of which we just saw is sitting out of his bowl game, but is probably an elite running back in the country from around the corner. So I'm not sure why this year it's that way. I'm not sure why maybe it's been that way last year, couple years. But, the most important thing we could do is continue to cultivate players within the area and keep making these players in Tucson viable options for FBS programs, viable options for Arizona. And then we have to continue. We brought in 2 guys from Hamilton High School, Genesis Smith and Tay Brown. We've got to continue to push out in Phoenix and in the Valley area, and we have to make sure that those guys jump on I-10 and make this drive to Tucson and are a part of this program as well. Okay? All right. Well, thank you all very much. It was a great day today to be a Wildcat. Oh, and Carlos Wilson.
Yeah, I apologize for stammering over my previous answer. My phone has been blowing up, so Coach, I'll let you know why.
Wide receiver just committed,
very
Carlos
distracting.
Wilson. So put that in the books here.
Carlos